Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SETA web panel entitled as Natural Gas Developments in Turkey, Discoveries, Market Reforms, and Geopolitical Reflections. Before the panel, we have a distinguished guest. He will make a presentation, then we'll pass to the panel. But before giving the floor to our invited speaker, our distinguished guest, let me mention some of the main points regarding natural gas development in Turkey. As we all know that Turkey is a net importer of natural gas, considering that its production covers approximately only 1% of its natural gas consumption. However, Turkey is one of the most promising markets in terms of natural gas due to its strategic position between the major natural gas suppliers such as Russia, Azerbaijan, Qatar, and the Eastern Mediterranean region, and one of the major natural consuming regions, namely Europe. Being a country highly dependent on important energy resources, especially natural gas, Turkey has felt the need to develop and adopt several policies which promote the diversification of sources and at the same time decrease the dependency on important resources. Within this context, starting from 2002, Turkey has been undergoing an important transition in the energy sector, which has resulted in the transformation of the energy market. One of the latest developments in Turkey's energy market has been the increase in the LNG imports, while the share of the natural gas import via pipeline has been in a continuous fall. Another important development, which was the result of the ongoing transition, is the discovery of natural gas reserves in the Black Sea. These developments have given Turkey an important leverage, which it is still willing to use in order to become more independent in terms of energy imports. I am confident that today's panel will address many questions about Turkey's energy policy and the latest discoveries in the Black Sea and the geopolitical reflections. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Alparslan Bayraktar, the Deputy Minister of Energy and Natural Resources of Turkey, who will be addressing these issues briefly before the panel. Thank you very much for our accepting invitation, and the floor is yours, Mr. Bayraktar.
Thank you, Jam. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real privilege and honor for me to speak at this event. First of all, I would like to thank SETA organizing this webinar. It's such a timely and important topic. And I see there's an excellent speakers in the panel. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Today, I would like to talk about the latest developments in Turkish gas market, discovery that we have made in the Black Sea, the role of gas for Turkish energy market, and new era, this upcoming era for natural gas in Turkey, as well as some of the regional and global developments in this front. First of all, a little bit global developments in energy during the pandemic. COVID-19 has had severe impacts on global energy markets as a result of slow transportation, trade, and economic activities, which eventually led to energy demand decrease. Energy consumption globally dropped drastically due to lockdowns and limitations in activities of daily living. IEA and IMF estimate that the global economy will shrink by 6% in the year 2020, and some 300 million jobs may have been lost during the second quarter of this year. The biggest economic shock that directly affects energy markets and accordingly global energy investment is expected to shrink by 20% in this year alone. This is the largest decline in energy investment after World War II, for some reasons that eventually poses a real risks to energy security and sustainability in the future. Today's cutbacks in energy investment will be felt after a few years when the world enter into a post-recovery phase. There's a potential risk that this might lead to future imbalances in the energy and affect energy prices and increase volatility and uncertainty. So that's a little bit global outlook during the pandemic. When it comes to Turkey and Turkish gas market, and to better understand the real motivation behind the very famous latest gas discovery in the Black Sea and this development, you need to know the market dynamics and challenges that we are facing in Turkish energy market. Energy demand in Turkey is constantly growing. Over the last 2 decades, power demand and gas demand almost tripled. Our first challenge is to meet this growing demand. That means we need a lot of investment. We need to attract investment capital into our energy markets. Secondly, and unfortunately, as Muhittin Hoca mentioned, Turkey heavily relies on imported resources. We import almost 92% of our crude oil and 99% of our natural gas from various countries, from different routes and different regions. Overall, in terms of primary energy supply, import dependency rate in Turkey is around 70%. Energy import is the main reason, or I can say is like a single biggest reason of our current account deficit. And last decade, in average, Turkey was paying a little over $40 billion for energy import. So our energy policy was shaped to address these two challenges. Turkish energy market has been evolving over the last 20 years to 2 decades. And in 2017, Turkish energy sector has entered into the second phase. I call it transition 2.0, second phase of transition, when we announced the new national energy and mining policy, which this policy has 3 main pillars: security of supply, utilization of local resources and localization in industry, energy industry, in terms of energy equipment and content. And finally, the third pillar is the provide market predictability. Major actions were identified in this document to meet these objectives, demand growth and as well as reducing import dependency. These are the actions, some of the action that we identified in this document continue on market reforms, being part of and realize international pipeline projects for diversification, increasing reliability and resilience of the power and gas infrastructure, gas network, utilization of renewables, utilization of domestic coal power generation in a cleaner way, improving energy efficiency, applying and deployment of the new technologies, and adding nuclear into our energy mix, and finally, develop and implement an oil and gas upstream program. So these are the actions that had been identified in this document. So the main motivation behind this discovery was to reduce Turkey's hydrocarbon import dependency. Since the early 1980s, natural gas became a main fuel in Turkey's energy mix, along with coal and oil. And gas is quite crucial for Turkish energy market and in general, Turkish economy. It is important not only for industry or household, but also for power generation. Turkey today is the 4th largest gas market in Europe, with around 45 to some years 50 billion cubic meter of gas consumption, and again almost fully imported resources. We have some long-term contracts. We receive gas through pipelines from Russia, Azerbaijan, and Iran, but also we have significant imports through LNG. There are a couple of points I would like to make here. First, diversification, as we said earlier, is quite crucial for Turkish energy policy. And the main reason is it's important for security of supply. That's why we decided to invest heavily on different infrastructure projects, international pipeline projects, such as TANAP, Trans-Anatolian Pipeline, and Turkstream project, and successfully completed those projects. And now 2 projects are operational and gas flow continues. We invested to increase our gas regasification capacity. We added 2 new FSRU into our infrastructure, existing LNG terminals. We increased the existing LNG terminals capacity, almost quadrupled in this capacity in a few years' time, and we are increasing our underground storage capacity from 3.3 billion cubic meters to 10 billion cubic meters in the year 2023. And the reason that we started to invest in gas infrastructure, because we saw and we witnessed the global gas trade was moving towards more LNG since the shale boom in the US, and US became a net exporter of gas. And LNG prices became very competitive. And today, with all these investments, Turkey has technical infrastructure, and Turkey can import 50% of its gas needs through LNG. We started to see the result of this strategy and investment, and we saw that the increase of share of LNG in our supply mix is increasing. Let me share some of the figures with you. LNG share was in the market 22% in the year 2018. In 2019, it went up to 28%, and this year alone, the first 4 or 5 months, it was over 40%. And most likely, we are going to end up 1/3 of gas supply will come from LNG to Turkey in the year 2020, this year. It's a very significant number. Secondly, Turkey and Turkish gas market is approaching a very important milestone. Starting next April, approximately 16 billion cubic meter of gas contracts are going to expire. Definitely this new discovery, the Black Sea discovery, Sakarya discovery, will be factored in this new era. But in this new era, starting from next year with 16 BCM, and it will continue until the 2026, which is another important milestone for Turkish gas supply picture. 2025 and 2026, our 26 billion cubic meter of gas contracts, long-term contracts, are going to be expired. So we are looking for renegotiating future contracts, and reliability, flexibility, and competitiveness are the 3 main expectations and principles that we are looking for over the next contract negotiation. As you all know, August 21st, 2020, President Erdogan announced a discovery with a potential of 320 billion cubic meter of gas, representing the largest in the Black Sea. On October 17, 2020, we updated the discovery as 405 billion cubic meter. Tuna 1 ultra deep water exploration well, now we name it Sakarya gas field. It's 100% Turkish Petroleum equity, drilled with 6th generation drill ship Fatih. The well, which was drilled in little over 2,000 meters of water depth, reached a total depth of 4,700 meters. The prospect, as of today, with a potential of little over 400 BCM gas, ranks as one of the largest natural gas discovery in the year 2020. The production will start in 2023, very ambitious target. The first gas delivery to Turkish gas network, it will be in 2023, but it will reach a plateau production level in the year 2025 and 2026. And roughly the nominal value of this gas discovery is around like $80 billion as of today's figures. But also there are some direct and indirect impact on our economy. We already mentioned about the helping to reduce our import bill, and through that to reduce current account deficit. But definitely, this discovery will create jobs. It will create business opportunities during the development phase and the production phase. It will create a whole upstream ecosystem in the region. It will hopefully reduce our energy prices for final consumers, and this will make our industry and manufacturing sector also more competitive. And also the expectation to provide more certainty about energy prices, which is a quite essential element for business community. Turkey also continues its hydrocarbon activities within the continental shelf in the Eastern Mediterranean. I need to mention here that all of our activities in the region are based on legal grounds coming from international law, and the recent registration of UN about Turkey-Libya Maritime Delimitation Agreement reveals that the Turkey's legitimacy on this front once again. I would like to highlight here that Turkey will continue its legitimate hydrocarbon activities in the Eastern Mediterranean, but definitely a few times we already announced this, we are open to any constructive and sincere dialogue. Transition in the energy sector in Turkey, as I mentioned earlier, has been started in electricity market and continued in its gas market by implementing reforms to progress towards market liberalization and more competitive markets. Even though we haven't yet reached the desired level of maturity in gas market, we believe that there is a unique opportunity in this new era. Over the years, everybody was telling us and sometimes criticizing us why gas market liberalization was behind the target. And everybody knows existing contracts, the structures of the contracts, the price formulas, high take-or-pay requirements, less flexible terms, and long durations made it really, really difficult to change the existing structure. But now we have a very good opportunity to change it. Markets in general are much more ready for reforms and changes, especially in these difficult times. We can open gas market to competition. Also some new areas in the natural gas sector, such as cross-border trade, and more liquid trade options may be available in this new era. What we are saying to our existing suppliers and potential new suppliers to provide us reliable, competitive gas supply, since Turkey is a very reliable customer for so many decades for the suppliers. And what we are saying to the suppliers, please be aware of the market dynamics and market realities. Follow very closely the development in the market. But we also say to our fellow counterparts in the relevant governments and relevant agencies and the countries, please do not jeopardize the trade relationship through some political actions, and do not overshadow reliability aspect of the gas supply. This is absolutely essential element and expectation from our side. Another point that's related to the future of natural gas in Turkey and in the world is related to energy transition. Energy transition is a global phenomenon. We know that it is inevitable, it is happening, it is going to happen, that the world economy is evolving towards cleaner, greener, and lower emission systems and models, especially after the new US election. I think it will gain a momentum again globally. Renewables are on the rise this year because of COVID-19, made it really an exceptional year. But last couple of years, we witnessed more investment on electrification and renewables, and we believe that it will continue that way in near future. Turkey also moving forward in this pathway, but of course we need to be very careful on that for two reasons. One is related to security of supply, so we cannot give up on system security and system reliability and resilience. That's why we would like to add also some clean base load power, base load power generation such as nuclear. That's why it's in our energy policy. Second thing is competitiveness. Affordability and competitiveness, also one of our main priorities. I think Black Sea gas discovery will help us to have more natural gas into our energy mix. Some years we have been generating power mainly from natural gas, almost 45% power was coming from natural gas. But to make this through imported gas was not a very desired options. But with our own gas supply, it will be much more reasonable and viable, economically viable, that we can generate power from gas to add more renewables into electricity system, to more intermittent resources into electricity network. Lastly, I would like to talk about regional cooperation on gas. Turkey was a trendsetter in opening markets to untapped resources, for instance, in the Caspian region and Caspian Sea. As I mentioned earlier, today Turkey's regional energy strategy has a similar approach. And what we are saying, and in this picture, Turkey can be a part of any project which creates win-win for parties, which help Turkey's and regional security of supply, in this region, Southeastern Europe, or like in general Europe. And if the project helps to solve regional conflicts and to improve political and economic stability, Turkey welcomes those projects. As we said earlier, TANAP, Trans-Anatolian Pipeline Project, is an extremely good example for this approach. I often give the similar answer to the question related to Eastern Mediterranean hydrocarbons, and the question is how this potential can be realized. Very simple formula. We need to follow up the similar steps that we have followed for TANAP and for TAP, the cooperation between countries in the route and mutual understanding and trust. And of course, economic viability made it possible to have gas flow from Caspian Sea to Turkey and through Turkey to Europe. Could be a good example for other hydrocarbon resources in the region. Look, as I mentioned earlier, we extended our gas grid to all of our neighbors, and any molecules reaches the Turkish gas network can be easily reached to our neighboring markets. But for long-term energy cooperation, we need to strike a balance between producer countries, transporter countries, and consumer countries. We need to be constructive, creative, and pragmatic. But more importantly, if you ask me just one single bullet for that, we need to have a strong political commitment and willingness. Last but not least, as I mentioned earlier, COVID-19 is a huge shock to the energy systems and in general economies, but the response also represents an opportunity to steer the energy sector into a more resilient, secure, and sustainable path. The current crisis and the policy response to it will influence the rate of change in the energy-related capital stock. We have the opportunity to design our responses to the crisis by combining economic recovery with energy and, of course, climate goals. The way that we respond to the crisis today will determine the energy security and sustainability hazards that the world, that the countries will face tomorrow. Having said that, once again, I would like to thank SETA for this opportunity and for this excellent webinar, and I look forward to listen the panel. Excellent panel. Thank you.
Much, Mr. Deputy Minister. It was a great presentation before the webinar. So thank you very much again for accepting our invitation. And now I want to give the floor to Meryem İlayda Atlas, the moderator of our webinar. And we have three distinguished speakers together with Meryem İlayda. Now the floor is yours, Meryem İlayda Atlas.
Thank you very much, Professor Muhittin Ataman, for your welcoming remarks. And also I have special thanks to Mr. Deputy Minister Alparslan Bayraktar for his keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished panelists, good afternoon from Istanbul. All welcome to today's panel on natural gas developments in Turkey. Thank you very much for investing your time and being with us today. My name is Meryem İlayda Atlas. I'm a journalist and editorial coordinator of Daily Sabah, an English newspaper based in Istanbul. Today our panel is about most recent gas discovery in the Black Sea, where we will also be discussing market reforms and geopolitical reflections, as well as American sanctions. Before we dive into panel discussions, let me briefly introduce our panelists. Mr. Bernd Mützelburg, retired ambassador and former national security advisor to Federal Chancellor's Office. You're welcome, Mr. Ambassador, and he is with us today from Berlin. You're welcome. And our second panelist will be Sohbet Karpuz. He is director at Mediterranean Observation for Energy, and he will be with us today from Paris. He's also welcome. And our last panelist, Gloria Şükürti Özdemir, from SETA Foundation. SETA is organizing this event and a think tank for political, economic, and social research. And she is also a colleague from Energy Directorate. You're welcome, Gloria. You all know Turkey has an initiative on national energy policies 3 years ago in 2017. And Turkey has drilling activities on both Mediterranean Sea and in the Black Sea based on a long-time offshore program. And 3 months ago, President Erdogan announced the largest gas discovery ever made in Turkey, which this discovery changed Turkey's role in the energy market, of course, in the negotiation power of Turkey at the table, of course. How this huge gas discovery will affect Turkey's future and its relations with US and Russia and other regional powers, and what is the potential for the trade and how will it affect the game changing in the region? We will be elaborating on these issues today. Let's start our panel. Each panelist will have approximately 15 to 20 minutes, and I will be asking questions to draw out the picture. And let's start with Mr. Mützelburg. Mr. Ambassador, what is the reaction of the American policies for Nord Stream 1 and 2 and this gas recovery? What is happening in the region? What is the reaction and what is the American response? Floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Meryem, for your kind introduction. A welcome and, of course, best good afternoon wishes also from Germany, from Berlin, from my part. Thanks a lot to SETA, first of all, for organizing a webinar on such an important subject for both our countries. But more thanks even for allowing me to participate in this webinar. I am thrilled to do so, and it is a particular pleasure and honor for me to do so together with Minister Bayraktar, who, like me, is an alumnus of the Fletcher School for International Law and Diplomacy. It's wonderful to be able to be together with him at this seminar. Being German, I suppose you will bear with me if I focus my analysis more on Nord Stream 2 than on Turk Stream. And I would suggest to approach the subject in 3 steps. First, I will try to describe the scope and the state of play concerning Nord Stream 2. Second, I will deal with the effects and the repercussions of the threatened US sanctions on Germany, on Turkey, on Europe, and on the transatlantic partnership. And thirdly, I will ask the question, what should we do, especially vis-a-vis the incoming American administration? Nord Stream 2, as you know, is a drama which is moving fast to high noon to decision-making. The deep sea pipeline is almost completed. Of the altogether 1,200 kilometers, only 154 kilometers remain to be completed. But since about a year, however, work has come to a standstill because Allseas, a Swiss offshore pipe-laying company, withdrew its special ships, afraid of the threat of US sanctions imposed by PISA, the act called PISA because that stands for the synonym Protecting Europe's Energy Security Act, passed by the US Congress and in force since December 2019. The same act, by the way, directed against Turkstream. In an effort to replace the Allseas ships, Russia has deployed its pipeline layer Akademik Chersky, plus support ships from Vladivostok to Mukran, a small German Baltic seaport designed as a terminal for Nord Stream 2 in Germany. As a response to this deployment, the US has upped the ante and has further sharpened their sanctions regime by not only introducing a clarification act to PISA in June 2020, but also by doing so in a retroactive manner to also sanction testing, servicing, certification, and insurance activities. This in turn has led Norske Veritas, Germanic Lloyd, a major certifier and insurer, to withdraw from their service contract. And since testing, certification, insurance are preconditions for the national building permits, especially the Danish one, this has put now a new halt to all activities. Obviously, efforts are now going on to try to find an alternative to Norske Veritas, but this will be, to put it mildly, very difficult. And as if this were not enough, the US government agencies and the US Embassy in Berlin keep threatening and harassing companies involved in building the pipeline. The 3 US senators, Ted Cruz, Ron Johnson, Tom Cotton, all closely related to the American oil and gas industry, even went so far to write a letter to the mayor and to the harbor manager of Mukran, as I said, a very small town, threatening them with immediate and crushing legal and economic consequences to all persons and companies involved in the construction. Now, what are the effects? What are the repercussions of these threatened US sanctions? As the name of the US Act says, the main intention of the sanctions regime is to ensure Europe's energy security by reducing or eliminating national and regional dependencies on Russian energy. In other words, by curtailing Russian gas deliveries and replacing them as much as possible with US LNG gas won by fracking. Thus, the exportation to Europe of, as the US Energy Ministry likes to call it, freedom gas shall be fostered and jobs in the US fracking industry be created. Never mind that US LNG is still more expensive than Russian gas, and that both the fracking process and the liquefaction and transportation of LNG come at grave costs to the environment and global climate. In addition, PISA aims also at ensuring gas supplies and in particular transit fees to the Ukraine, to Poland and the Baltic states, whose land pipelines would remain without alternative. The truth is that neither Nord Stream 2 nor Turkstream threaten Europe's energy security. To the contrary, Germany's and Europe's energy needs will continue to increase if and when the COVID-19 pandemic is overcome, of course, as Minister Abarak pointed out. First, because the Dutch, English, and Norwegian gas fields are nearing exhaustion, and second, because the supply gap caused by the environmentally desired exit from coal and oil, and in the case of Germany, also from nuclear energy, will increase the demand for gas, at least as a bridging energy source. Nord Stream 2 and Turkstream will allow more than a doubling of the present Russian gas supplies to Europe, and thus help to ensure that energy prices will remain stable in spite of rising demand for private customers and companies alike. This increase, by the way, in demand will also help to ascertain that the existing transit routes through the Ukraine and Poland will continue to be necessary. On a more strategic level, let me perhaps explain that from the beginning of the Soviet-German energy cooperation in the 1970s, when under Chancellor Willy Brandt the Mannesmann pipeline deal was agreed, this cooperation has been a bone of contention between Germany and the United States. Yet contrary to US assertions, even at the height of the Cold War, Soviet oil supplies were always reliable, were never reduced, because this corresponded with the interests of both sides. And since those days, neither Bonn nor Berlin ever bent to political pressures from the Kremlin. Hence, Donald Trump's allegations made in the context of Nord Stream 2 that Germany were totally controlled by Moscow and were Moscow's prisoner are nonsensical. In case the PISA and PESCA actions were to succeed in preventing the completion of Nord Stream 2 and Turk Stream, the political and economic damage would be immense. Not so much for Russia, but even more so for Germany, for Europe, for Turkey, and certainly for the transatlantic partnership. Alone in case of Nord Stream 2, investments to the tune of 12 billion euros would be lost. European consumers would be burdened by additional energy costs of up to 4 billion euros annually, mind you. 5 of the 6 energy majors involved, apart from Gazprom, are European, namely Engie, OMV, Royal Dutch Shell, Uniper, and Wintershall Dea. 2/3 of all pipeline investments go as employment-generating orders to European companies. And all in all, about 120 European companies will be affected. More than 80% of the offshore pipeline approved by European legislation run through German waters. So while the US likes to present the issue as a Russian issue, it is a genuinely European project targeted by US sanctions. And as a look at other US sanctions reveals, it is less about containing Russia than about fostering US economic interests. Due to the sanctions imposed on Iran and Venezuela, US companies cover their need for heavy oil by more than doubling their oil imports from Russia last year. This has made Russia the second largest oil exporter to the US. So telling Europe to reduce their dependency from Russian energy is classical double talk. We must not discuss that extraterritorial US sanctions are a breach of international law and interfere into the sovereignty of Turkey, Germany, and the European Union. This is self-evident. What is new, though, is that in the past, US sanctions were directed at real, or at least at imaginary, adversaries of the United States. Now they are directed against partners and allies, who are thus treated like rogue states. Taking a closer look at the long history of US sanctions mania, it becomes obvious that they have not been terribly successful, to put it mildly. 60 years of sanctions against Cuba have but reinforced the Communist Party's hold on the country. The sanctions imposed on Iran and on Russia have certainly caused sufferings of the population concerned, but they have not changed the behavior of the respective governments. They have led both countries, however, into the open arms of China and thus strengthened the sway of the US main contender for global supremacy. Gerhard Schröder, former German Chancellor, holds the view that the threat of sanctions against NATO allies and partners during the present economic recession amounts to a deliberate attack against a revocation even of the transatlantic partnership. Now, one may hold that Schröder exaggerates due to his present positions as member of board of Gazprom and chairman of Nord Stream 2. One may also argue that the transatlantic partnership has overcome other strains in the past. There can be no doubt, though, that threatening partners with sanctions does not improve partnership and goodwill and will lead, or rather deepen, the alienation which large sectors of the German and Turkish societies feel towards the United States. Perhaps more importantly, in the long run, the might is right approach manifested in this threat is in contradiction to the notion of a rules-based international system for which the Western democratic model stands and for which former American governments have fought for, and that can only lead to its further weakening. Now, what can we do? What should we do now that the American first maxim of Trump is about to be replaced by Joe Biden, a strong believer in the NATO alliance and in multilateral cooperation? I am afraid the hope that the Biden administration will not hesitate to lift the sanctions against Nord Stream 2 and Turkstream are, well, at least premature. As Vice President to Obama, Biden has been very critical of Nord Stream 2, perhaps to a lesser degree of Turkstream, and he has described them as a fundamentally bad deal for Europe. Plus, and this is probably more important, opposition against Nord Stream and Turkstream has been one of the few issues in Congress which enjoyed bipartisan support. And the strong Polish and Ukrainian lobby groups in Washington will do their utmost that this will not change. Since Biden enters his term with the determination to unite, to heal, and in this context to reach out to the Republicans, maintaining or even sharpening PESA and PESCA will probably be a temptation hard to resist for himself and his crew. But given the high stakes for us, adopting a wait-and-see attitude in this situation should not be an option. Neither will it be enough to leave it at mere statements deploring the breach of international law inherent in extraterritorial US sanctions. How about a tit-for-tat policy? Surely, a first emotional response against threats is to answer pressure with counter-pressure. And tongue-in-cheek, one could perhaps even imagine the EU Parliament, in consonance with the Turkish Parliament, passing a PISU Act, an act protecting the energy security of the United States of America on behalf of the Europeans. Yet, rational deliberation tells us, of course, that a spiral of sanctions and counter-sanctions, that ensuing economic warfare will only know losers. We believe in open markets and free competition since they create win-win situations. Win-win situations which we do not want to undermine ourselves. Regrettably also, the option of legal recourse is not available. The US have not submitted to the jurisdiction of the ICJ, and they have undermined the dispute settlement mechanisms of the WTO. So the only meaningful and feasible option is to engage with the incoming Biden administration at an early stage and in a strong, persevering, and united manner. If possible, a bridge-building manner. I'm sure that the Turkish side, like the German side, has already started this exercise on the diplomatic level and also on the level of business associations. But given the commonality of our interests, I would submit that this issue lends itself perhaps for common bilateral Turkish and German initiatives, which will render more strength to our common cause. In terms of bridge building, we can learn from the Turkish side. You have already opened up, as Minister Al-Bakkar explained, your energy market to LNG, also to US LNG, creating the necessary infrastructure and legal framework. We have started on a similar vein. In addition, we have, by the way, also mediated a new transit agreement between Gazprom and the Ukrainian government, assuring billions of income for the Ukraine, not least for modernization of their land pipelines. Yet in the end, I believe it will not be the economic, but the geostrategic arguments which might carry the day. The US will only cease treating us on the same level as rogue states if they understand that their threat with economic sanctions has the potential to seriously harm the transatlantic partnership, including NATO. Such a threat will accelerate efforts to make us more resilient against US pressure in the global marketplace, in the world financial system, in defense, to the detriment of long-term American interests in their global competition, especially with China. While hailing the desire of I'm coming to a close. While hailing the desire of Biden to revitalize the partnership with Europe, we must stress that in diplomatic language, the threat of economic sanctions is not conducive to this end. On our part, we need resolve and unity of purpose at home, in Europe, and with like-minded partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. You touched upon the nature of the strategic relations and the future of Europe's energy security, and you just differentiated the threatening and partnership difference, and how can we go on more for economic interest and partnership. Thank you very much for this very in-depth analysis. And our second panelist is Mr. Karbuz. You're welcome, and he's with us from Paris. Mr. Karbuz, I want you to elaborate on more about the most recent gas discovery in the Black Sea. What is the potential of this huge discovery? What will be its future, and how can it be materialized? How can we materialize this discovery? Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the kind invitation. It's a pleasure to be here today. Well, as you know, Sakarya discovery is a turning point in Turkey's energy history. Not only in Turkey's energy history, also a turning point in Turkey's upstream oil and gas industry. Well, since the announcement of 2017 National Energy and Mining Policy, there was big effort to increase the exploration activities in Turkey. Since 1934, I think around 4,500 wells have been drilled, exploratory wells have been drilled in Turkey, and most of it were drilled onshore. So the offshore areas in Turkey, Black Sea, Marmara, Aegean, and Mediterranean, are still largely underexplored and unexplored. Only less than a dozen of wells have been drilled deep offshore. So in that sense, it is a big gain. Sakarya discovery is a very big gain for Turkey. Now there are several comments about the possible coming online of this discovery, the amount of gas that could potentially be produced, etc. We are in early stage. Well, first, the discovery has to be proved by the appraisal wells, then there will be tests. So we will then find out how much gas could be recoverable from the field. In any case, it is for the moment not too important. The important point is that we have a significant, large discovery. We will know exactly how much gas the Sakarya gas field has contained only after the last molecule of gas had been produced from this field. Before that, everything is an estimate, and reserve numbers are not constant numbers. It varies every year, goes up or down. Now, how much it would cost? Of course, it would cost billions of dollars. We don't know, because we don't know yet the development plan, but definitely billions of dollars, probably $3 to $4 billion. There are a lot of comments. Well, that is too much money. Yes, that is too much money, but we should think of long term. Many people think that Turkey would be struggled to find this amount of money. I don't believe so, because look at the Turkey's official development assistant, or in other words, foreign aid in 2019. It was $8.5 billion. So it was one of the largest in the OECD, because according to OECD official development assistant, the countries are encouraged to give 0.7% of their gross national income as a development assistant, whereas Turkey gave more than 1%. So reducing development assistance would alone cover the development cost of the field. So there will be, of course, partnerships with foreign companies, bringing the gas onshore and other facilities. But in any case, we don't know yet. But on average, we can say more or less the magnitude would justify at least 8 to 10 billion cubic meters of gas production every year. What does that mean? That means more or less the consumption of natural gas in Istanbul. So you can cover the consumption of Istanbul with one single field. Or when we think of Turkey, it is more or less 20% of Turkey's gas demand. So it would reduce whatever amount that will produce from the field, will reduce the dependency of Turkey on foreign sources, for foreign imports, because the amount of gas that is produced could allow Turkey to cut import contracts. It will also reduce Turkey's import bill. In 2019, last year, we had paid $41 billion for energy imports, and 13 billions of that amount was for natural gas. So whatever we produce will reduce imports and reduce the money we pay for the imports. Now, this discovery will also allow us to negotiate in better terms with our gas suppliers, because within the next 5 years, around 30 billion cubic meters per year of gas contracts with foreign suppliers will expire. So this gas discovery will strengthen Turkey's negotiation power in its import negotiations. Now, producing domestic gas would also mean that Turkey would create additional space for transit of gas. Now, who knows? Maybe Turkey would export part of the gas, because we will have a large capacity. We already have large capacity, interconnection capacity with Greece, and most of it is unused. But these are only the gas part and energy part of the story. The gas discovery will allow us to have several benefits. For example, it will contribute to development of natural gas industries, maybe service companies or additional private companies. It will bring us know-how, technological or technical expertise, and it may also have or provide a training center for capacity building for new young generation to be experts on offshore industry. I don't know the plans of the ministry, but maybe we should buy more drill ships, more seismic ships. As I said, our waters are underexplored or unexplored. So it will also help improve the economy. It will create definitely employment and industry as well, because you will have to provide several spare parts, even pipes for this gas discovery, or the other discoveries, hopefully, that will follow. Hopefully we will find more gas and also oil. Well,
Sorry for interrupting, Mr. Karpuz. May I ask a question about this more investment?
yes.
Turkey has launched its national energy initiative only 3 years ago. So before, Turkey was aligning with some companies like this ExxonMobil or BP companies for this kind of gas research, and then it started to use its own drilling ships. So in just 3 years, finding this amount of gas isn't it a great success? And for more investment, it is how do you see that for the future? It is very hopeful and very insightful for having a success in 3 years and then just looking for the future.
Yes, this discovery, first of all, made Black Sea and a hot spot for international oil and gas companies, because it was a very big discovery. So it will definitely attract the attention of foreign companies. But maybe a better way for Turkey could be to open up Black Sea area to an international licensing bidding round, because companies would prefer, sometimes to act alone. So they prefer getting a block and do activities by themselves. So it is, of course, better maybe to partner with foreign companies that we could learn really a lot, but they may want to go alone as well. So Turkey could open the Black Sea area to international bidding ground. This discovery, maybe also the others, would also allow Turkish Petroleum to gain expertise and technical capacity, as I mentioned. And with this expertise and capacity, technological know-how, maybe Turkish Petroleum could bid offshore blocks in foreign countries. For example, in Somalia or in Lebanon. Why not in Israel? Why not in Egypt? So in our region. So with this expertise, having seismic ships plus drill ships, if you have the technical knowledge too, it is a big positive point for Turkish Petroleum to become an international company. I mean, an important international company. So these are important points.
Mr. Karpuz, do you want to add something? You have still some time. Would you like to add something more?
Yes, with this discovery, Turkish energy policy may also enter a new phase. Of course, we will have several challenges. We are still facing several challenges, but this gas in the gas discovery or possible other discoveries could give us a bigger prize. It is important to develop this field as soon as possible. I understand that the intention is to put it online by 2023. Well, there are some negative comments on that. How is that possible that 2023 this big gas field could be put on stream? Well, the important thing is the will. If you have the will, if you have the resources, if you mobilize the resources in terms of monetary, bureaucracy, decision making, etc., you can do it. The important thing, at least from my point of view, what I'm looking at this final investment decision, when it will be taken, because in international business, the important part, the starting point is the final investment decision. After that, the time, so to bring the gas into production is the important process. Let's look at the Zohr field, for example, in East Mediterranean. So Zohr field was the largest gas field that was discovered in the Mediterranean region. From final investment decision to production, the time lapse was only 22 months. So in less than 2 months after final investment decision, the field was put on stream. Similarly, Tamar field, again, in Israel, is a very large field in terms of size, distance from the shore, etc., very similar to Sakarya gas field, 2.5 years and 2.5 years from final investment decision to flow of gas. And Leviathan field, for example, it is much larger than Sakarya field, even nearly double. And the time between final investment decision and the first flow of gas was less than 3 years. So it can be done. It can be done. Well, from that point of view, so of course, there will be a fast-tracked, I assume, development. So the studies, I'm sure the Turkish Petroleum and the ministry are trying to optimize the process. So it will be a big gain at the end for Turkey. So the reserve amount, the amount of gas produced, etc., it will not produce immediately 8 or 10 billion cubic meters per year, even if assume that in plateau production it is 10 billion cubic meters. It will take some time to come to plateau period. But whatever is produced, it is a gain for Turkey, not only in terms of money that will stay in Turkey, the amount of gas that will be produced, but also the amount of gas that will allow us to cut from importers and the development of Turkey and use maybe more gas. As you know, the Turkey's natural gas demand was nearly stable, or not growing much in the past few years. Maybe we would use more gas together with renewables, and with that gas, maybe would also allow Turkey to be in line with European this hydrogen strategy, and we could produce maybe also hydrogen from renewable resources and mix some of the hydrogen into domestic pipeline.
And one more small remark about, you mentioned about geostrategical importance of the area, as also you mentioned the Leviathan area. And it is also this recent discovery made some unrealizable projects like Poseidon pipeline more unrealizable, isn't it?
Look, I cannot comment on East Mediterranean gas pipeline because the promoters of gas pipeline are our members, the company that I'm working for, or the think tank. In general, when we look at the East Mediterranean, they are missing the train, or they are about to miss the train, because there is an excess gas supply. There are a large amount of gas that could be additionally produced. For example, the second phase of the Tamar field or the second phase of Leviathan field. Easily, if these two the development phases are developed, you could have additional 20 billion cubic meters per year of gas. But the issue is that you cannot develop the second phase because there is no market to sell the gas. when you look at the nearby markets, Jordanian market is oversupplied for the moment. They don't know what to do with gas, and they will not need gas definitely as an additional contract. Egyptian market, they have enough gas, plus they have a contract with Israel, around 7 billion cubic meters per year, and they need their LNG facilities to export their gas. And it is the amount of money that they pay already to domestic producers in deep offshore are expensive in today's conditions. Buy this gas, liquefy it, transport to Europe, you cannot compete in these prices. And similarly, the policies, when you look at the policies in Israel, for example, you cannot export gas cheaper than the domestic market. So it is already expensive. Plus, you build a pipeline, for example, $5 per million BTU plus transportation cost. You cannot compete. Where you can compete, I mean, EastMed gas can compete, is maybe Asia. But when we look at the global gas industry today, in the next 5 years, 20% of total liquefaction capacity will find customers. This is big amount. Customer, everybody is looking at the Asian market. So whoever makes flexible, competitive agreements with Asia will grab the share in the market. So if EastMed gas, either Israel or future, hopefully in Lebanon or Egypt, would like to compete in Asian market, they need to make contracts today. And to be able to make contracts today, they have to start developing, take final investment decisions for the fields. Otherwise, in the next 5 years, when they decide to develop the fields, produce extra capacity, etc., but the market is gone, everybody shared, and there is no way to sell the markets. Unfortunately, in that case, whatever the discoveries or future potential discoveries in East Mediterranean can become, unfortunately, stranded under the ground.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carbus, for this very insightful discussion. Now I want to pass the microphone, but before passing the microphone, I want to have a very brief summary of what you were talking about. You mentioned about the potential of the Black Sea gas in unexplored areas, and also you talk about more investment on Turkish petroleum, a chance for Turkish petroleum to gain expertise, technical capacity and know-how in other countries, and with drilling ships to be an international player, which is obviously entering a new phase with this discovery. And also you mentioned the importance of the decision-making in this area. Thank you very much. It was a very revealing discussion. And I want to pass the microphone to our colleague from SETA, Gloria Şükürti Özdemir. You're welcome, Gloria. I want to ask you two questions about your expertise. What are the reasons behind Turkey's latest LNG policies, and how can we understand the relations between Turkey, US, and Russia energy triangle in terms of natural gas trade? Thank you very much. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mariam. So as we talked until now, we have a growing economy and a population of more than 80 million people in Turkey. And within this regard, Turkey has been one of the fastest growing energy consumers in the world. While 75% of this energy is important, almost all of it is comprised by oil and natural gas. Located strategically between two continents, Turkey is also an important oil and gas transit destination, which is decisive to its own import dependence as well as to its regional energy security. Turkey's priority to secure energy for its own market coincides with the aim of becoming an international hub and transit corridor for natural gas and determines a geopolitical role in the natural gas market. So in this regard, as Deputy Minister mentioned a little bit previously, Turkey has been taking decisive steps on basis of its energy transition, which has started since 2002, and it's still ongoing. Increasing its storage and regasification capacity, exploration in the Black Sea and Eastern Mediterranean, and increasing the share of the LNG imports are all policies that should be understood within this context. While the exploration in the Black Sea were covered thoroughly by Professor Karpuz, I would like to focus on the LNG trade and its impact of Turkish policies. So for many decades now, Turkey has been dependent on pipeline gas, and being this mainly from Russia, which provided more than half of the total natural gas imports. However, in the 4 last years, one of the most important developments that we have faced was the increase of the LNG imports, while the share of the natural gas imports via pipeline has been in a continuous fall, and a similar trend has been seen also in 2020. And based on the data provided from Turkey's Energy and Regulatory Authority, for the first time in March and May 2020, Turkey's LNG imports outpaced the pipeline imports, which was something very important. Furthermore, it is important to state that in the first half of 2020, the share of the LNG imports have been relatively higher when compared to the first half of 2009. Specifically, a little bit earlier, also the minister stated this, while in 2019, the share was just 28%. In 2020, in the first half, it was 40%. And it is expected to remain in a similar levels until the end of the year. Even why in July and August this share dropped a little bit. An important pattern that became visible in the previous months, meaning from January to August 2020, it is related with the sources of the natural gas imports. While the LNG imports from the US have increased approximately 155%, the natural gas imports via pipeline by Russia have declined by 35%. So when we go back in the previous years, it can be seen that this pattern is new for Turkey indeed. Never before had the American LNG imports increased in this level, nor had the Russian export declined by 35%. As a matter of fact, if we look in the previous decade, Russia pipeline imports at most increased by 19.2% in 2017 and declined at most by 10% in 2019. So at this point, naturally comes the question, what could be behind the change of the policy? And to respond to that, we need to look at the situation from 2 different perspectives, being this the economic or the commercial one, and the political ones. Before we go in details about these 2 perspectives, I would like to highlight something in here. In the last years, we have witnessed how Turkey has been following a very pragmatic foreign policy, both in terms of its relations with great powers or regional powers, or even in the crisis where it has found itself included too. So now we see that this kind of pragmatic policy being extended to the energy sector as well. So both of the reasons that I'm going to mention, the economical one and the political one, should be seen within this framework. The first economical reason behind the Turkey's LNG policy change, let's say, it is related with the spot LNG prices, which in 2020 it has reached record lows due to the demand destruction by COVID-19, and which added, to tell the truth, more pressure to an oversupply market. In the first half of 2020, the prices of spot LNG went down approximately 40% when compared to the first half of 2019. So it is common sense, to tell the truth, that Turkey would benefit from these low prices. And this brings us to the second reason behind Turkey's policies. As mentioned previously, Turkey imports approximately 99% of its natural gas. Most of this gas comes based on the long-term contract that Turkey has with Russia, Azerbaijan, Iran, and Nigeria and Algeria. 80.3 billion cubic meter per year of gas will expire at the end of 2021, and out of this 11.6 billion cubic meter will be open to renegotiations, and that comprises approximately 20% of the total natural gas amount that is based on the long-term contracts. So we also know that these existing long-term contracts are based on oil index prices, which are relatively high when compared with the spot LNG prices. At this point, the low LNG prices and the increase of the LNG imports, accompanied as well with the Black Sea discovery that we discussed a little earlier, is a leverage that Turkey is aiming to and should use in the negotiations for a renewed agreement or also for new agreements. Not only this, but Turkey can use this leverage to also revise the existing contracts that, to tell the truth, they should be more flexible. The increase of American spot LNG imports and the decline in the natural gas imports by pipeline from Russia can be understood within this context as well. And the last economic reason that I want to mention, it is related with the export possibilities. Well, to tell the truth, more than a reason, it is kind of a result that Turkey can achieve in the mid and long term in the future. And as we mentioned earlier, Turkey has a very significant geopolitical advantage in terms of its location, and benefiting from this, Turkey has been very open regarding its aim to become a natural gas hub. Even when sometimes different policies should be undertaken in order to achieve this aim, current policies can bring Turkey closer to this aim. More specifically, Turkey could export some of the purchased gas, which is not used for the domestic consumption, to other countries, including here, for example, Southern Europe, which are states and markets that are looking for new markets outside that of Russia. The export of LNG is strongly related to the storage capacity of Turkey, and it can be said that Turkey has taken very important steps in this regard. Currently, it has 4 LNG terminals, and 2 of which are floating storage regasification units. And just a few months ago, Turkey has announced that the third one storage capacity will be added soon. So at this point, it is important to state that if the American spot LNG imports continue to a similar level as they did in the first months of 2020, the Southern European states and more would welcome importing American LNG. So at this point, the LNG trade between Turkey and the United States would be a win-win case for both of the states. With that said, we now can continue shortly with a political perspective on the Turkey's energy policies in terms of the LNG imports. So first and foremost, increasing its LNG imports, especially those from the United States, make possible the diversification of Turkey's gas supplies, which has been one of the main intentions of Turkey since the beginning of its transition. As stated earlier, Turkey gets almost of its gas from Russia, Iran, and Qatar. So the US LNG would reduce Turkey's dependency on these states. The risk of depending only on a few states became very obvious for Turkey after the jet accident with Russia in 2015. If we go back in time, in many cases, we will see that Russia has shown to Turkey that it is a reliable natural gas supplier indeed. However, the jet accident served as a wake-up call to Turkey to show that it is a high risk to be taken and urging the need for diversification of supplies. However, here something needs to be emphasized. Turkey should increase the LNG imports in general, not just the US LNG's imports. Otherwise, Turkey would be just taking some leverage from Russia and handing it to the United States, which would not make a lot of difference for its energy security. Furthermore, the increase of the US LNG imports couldn't come in a more convenient time indeed. We have been witnesses of when Turkey and the US for some time now are facing one of the deepest crises because of their diverging interests that are related to FETÖ or Syrian war or the S-400 crisis and so on. However, the LNG trade between these both states can be seen as a silver lining in the bilateral relations. So while the US has been pursuing a policy of energy dominance that emphasizes especially the natural gas exports, Turkey provides a possible and profitable market for it. While on the other hand, as we mentioned earlier, the US LNG imports help Turkey in the diversification of its natural gas sources. So as we can see, this can be considered indeed a win-win situation for both of the states, and maybe it can bring the two NATO states closer together and open the path and bring possibilities for more cooperation in other issues, in bigger issues, let's say, later. I would like to close my speech by stating that the current policies undertaken by the Turkish government indeed can generally evaluated as positive ones, and they will prove effective in the future to bring Turkey closer to its aim, including here decreasing the dependency on natural gas resources, or even maybe become an energy hub in the long run. So this is all what I had to say about the topic.
Thank you very much, Gloria. Actually, it was a very your discussion was very challenging, actually, and it's also something very new in the area, the Turkish perspective for this, all of these energy issues, and also you very well mentioned both the economic and political perspective. But I have one question for you. And I will have two more questions for final questions for closing remarks for the other speakers. But I want to start with you because it was very much related with your presentation. So what is the motivation of the American side for reacting these Nord Stream 2 and Turk Stream projects? What is the motivation? It is economic or political motivation for United States for reacting these projects? Thank you.
Well, a little bit this question was touched upon previously by Mr. Multenberg, sorry, and to tell the truth, the reasons behind this, according to my opinion, they are both economical and political one. As Mr. Burns explained earlier, by closing the door to the Russian gas, this would open the path to the United States LNG to enter the European market, including here Turkey as well. So we know that especially the Trump administration has been following a very let's say aggressive policy in this regard, where they put the natural gas export and crude oil export as well as their main priority. So this would prove well to the American energy market and increase its profit from the export that it can do to Europe and Turkey. For the political one, is what I mentioned a little bit earlier. If Turkey increases too much its LNG imports from the USA, it would give the leverage that it's taking from Russia. Sorry, and this is exactly what the United States needs right now: taking leverage from Russia, giving it more power in the geopolitical struggle that we see in the international arena. So, according to my opinion, these are the two main reasons behind the US policies right now.
Thank you very much, Gloria. And I have one question for Mr. Mitchelberg, Mr. Ambassador, for one final thought for closing remarks. I want to ask you about the U.S. sanctions for Russia and Iran. While U.S. trying to punish these countries, it's also punishing other third parties like Germany and Turkey. It's not only punishing those countries. So what is the German reaction to those countries? What is their perspective for NATO alliances, especially not only the officers, but the general think tank intellectuals? How do they react to this US acting in a very one-sided way and trying to punish one country, but also affecting the other countries? What is their perspective?
Well, obviously, I think you've got to differentiate the two cases. Iran is, of course, a very special case. As you know, Europe, by the way, then together with the United States, has been able to conclude this JCPOA with Iran, with the main objective, of course, to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear bombs. This has been the absolute priority. Of course, it would have been desirable as well to somehow contain the regional ambitions of the Iran, but you've got to start somewhere, and this is why we started there. When the United States now left this agreement, the Americans did not feel bound to the most important part of the agreement for Iran, namely to lift up all the sanctions which had been existing hitherto, and has reintroduced these sanctions. We, the Europeans, all those who are still maintaining that it is more than desirable to prevent the Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, we think that this was wrong. We want to maintain, of course, the incentive for Iran to stick to the agreement, and therefore we think it would be desirable to continue fulfilling our part as well of the obligations. And in this respect, indeed, our economy has been affected by extraterritorial US sanctions, and we have tried to protect our companies as much as possible against these sanctions. But obviously, at the end of the day, the issue for most of the companies is not really the protection by their own government, but are they being excluded from the American market, which for most companies is, of course, more important than the Iranian market, and therefore they decided sometimes even to over comply with American sanctions. I think the appropriate answer towards this is to see whether we can indeed get the United States to reconnect again with the JCPOA and its obligations for both sides. But another answer, which is obviously being discussed, is it necessary for us to reduce our dependency, for example, from the American legal, economic, and financial structures? One issue which is being debated, for example, is do we need to continuously accept the overlordship of the American dollar over the international financial system? Or do we need to have a second global currency accepted by major players like the European Union, like Russia, like China, in order to reduce this dependency on the United States and to reduce the potential political leverage which we are experiencing in that respect? And the same is true, of course, with respect to other dependencies which exist. Russia is a different case in as much as most of the sanctions are, of course, based on the invasion of Crimea, which we have also heavily criticized, and therefore, of course, we are there in a different ballgame. But obviously, indeed, one of the problems with the American sanctions, not only those directed at us, is that it has always badly affected third parties, and therefore these extraterritorial sanctions have been basically decisions not only against the conceived adversary, but also against third parties not involved, and this is clearly not acceptable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. And one more final question for Mr. Carbus. Mr. Carbus, I want you to more elaborate on about the reactions within Turkey and without Turkey for the discovery of this huge gas reserve. What were the reactions? How would you elaborate them within Turkey and without Turkey? Thank you.
Outside of Turkey is very, very positive because the Sakarya discovery is one of the 10 largest deep offshore gas discoveries in the world in 2020. So in that sense, it is very significant. So everybody is interested, and they would like to know more about the future steps in developing the field and the plans, how to develop, how much it will produce, etc. And also in the Romanian part of the Black Sea, there were some discoveries that have not been put on production. Basically, deep Neptune in that block, there is a discovery around 50 to 80 billion cubic meters of recoverable reserves. But many people think that it has not been put on production because it takes really long time to bring the fields on stream. No, it is not the case. It is just because Romania introduced since end of 2018 some offshore gas plus some fiscal measures that made offshore gas development unattractive. That is it. It is just kill the balance of the companies. It is all policy issues. It is not because of the reserves or the fields. And in Turkey, of course, there's always good ones. It is important for Turkey, reduce imports and contribute to economy, employment, etc. that we mentioned. But there are also a lot of questions how the field will develop, because it may cost too much, and even the unit production cost may cost too much. I don't agree with these things, okay? Because this gives me a kind of capitalist mentality, the Western capitalist mentality that was pushed in the 70s, 80s. I will give you example. You know, there was a theory so-called competitive advantage. If you can buy something from outside cheaper, don't do it in your home country. Like Tahiti, for example, was a French rice producer and exporter. They said, well, why do you produce domestically? Why you waste a lot of time and money? You can import from outside. Yes, they did. And then it became net imported. No.
What you're telling is still macroeconomics 101 courses first lesson. We all
strong. This is developing countries. It is imperialism. That is it. This is just kind of neocolonialism, but from economic perspective. Let the countries don't develop their own resources. We can sell them through other countries cheaper so that they cannot develop. No, we should develop whatever it costs. It is not important as long as it costs cheaper than the maximum, the most expensive gas that Turkey gets from abroad. If development cost, unit production cost is way above that Turkey gets from its suppliers, then we can think about. But I do not think that it will be more expensive than, say, than Iranian gas. I don't think so. So we should develop it. The only thing that inside and out, especially from in the outside business market, that kind of create some curiosities is that the people outside do not get sufficient information directly from, let's say, Turkish Petroleum website or from ministry website about the further steps in developing this field or current activities. So that is why we've been hearing a lot of rumors, etc. No, the gas market, especially such a field, should not go through rumors, etc. Any development should be clearly explained by official sources so that the people don't create some rumors. And in domestic market, unfortunately, the people don't know, of course, because we never had such an important discovery in Turkey. We don't know to be patient. Let's be patient. Let the Turkish Petroleum and the Ministry conduct their studies. Then they will definitely come up with the plan. But as a population, we are so not impatient. We are not patient people. So we would like to know everything in advance, even if Turkish Petroleum doesn't know at that moment when the field was discovered. And we want to know everything. You cannot know everything, even the company doesn't know, because it is just a discovery. It will take time, tests, reservoir modeling, development plan, different scenarios. It will take time. So we should maybe teach them a little bit. Maybe this is the ministry or the journalists or the institutions like you. They should tell the people on the street how this process goes on. When the field is discovered, there is these steps, then final investment decision, then there is on average that amount, give examples, etc. The people don't know. The people think that the gas is discovered, tomorrow it will produce. And look at the reaction in Turkish stock exchange market. The day it was discovery is announced, some of the companies' shares increased 10%, as if the gas will be provided extremely cheap tomorrow. This is not the case. Unfortunately, we should educate the people in Turkey too, because we never had such a discovery.
Thank you very much. And also, thank you very much for your feedback about the comparative advantage. And maybe we need to rethink about the capitalist and imperialist nature of the economics curriculums in the universities for this kind of, mentioning comparative advantage. The discussion was very challenging. Ideas were firing. Many thanks to you all, to both our audiences and our great panelists. Thank you very much for your time and energy and contribution. And of course, special thanks to SETA, Energy Directorate, for organizing this panel. Now I think it's time to wind down and end the session. Thank you very much for your time. The panel is over. Thank you.